Hello, I'm Evanston's Mayor, Elizabeth Tisdahl, and all I want for my birthday, which is coming up April 27th, is to have everyone in town fill out the census forms. That would be worth $25 million this year, so I think that would be a splendid birthday present. The census is vital to the city. Everyone needs to fill it out. And if you have filled it out, you're wonderful and terrific, but you're not done. Go talk to your neighbors, talk with people who ride the L, talk with people in the supermarket, convince them to fill out their census forms. Right now, with 33% of our population not returning their census questionnaires, the City of Evanston will lose $25,125,240 in funding yearly. That's a new Robert Crown Center. That's $25 million in taxes that we've paid the federal government, money that will not be coming back to us. That's money that will be added to our property taxes to pay for, could be added to our property taxes to pay for schools, sidewalks, jobs, roads, housing, and many other items that impact our lives daily. Anyone who's ever complained about property taxes in Evanston, and that's all of us, now is your chance to act. Fill out the census, knock on doors, convince everyone who lives in Evanston to fill out their forms. We have plenty of time. We need plenty of people. We can make $251 million over 10 years if we all act like the activists we are. Let's get this done. Jan?
I'm Congresswoman Schakowsky. Not only do I represent Evanston as part of the 9th Congressional District, but I've lived here for well over 30 years, and I want to see Evanston get everything that it so richly deserves. And that can only happen if every single person does fill out the census form. The money supports the community in a variety of ways, schools and senior citizen center, to transportation, emergency services, allocation of transportation and road fixing dollars. Everything that we get from the federal government and much of what we get from the state government is dependent on the census, on the count. And so when Evanston residents go uncounted, we leave money on the table and we lose out as a community. I understand that we're up to about 69% of the people having filled out their forms, but that's still, I think, in the neighborhood of 25,000 residents that have not done that, and that's a lot. 25,000 would just about fill the United Center, and 25,000 people would fill over half of Ryan Field, and 2/3 of U.S. Cellular Field, and 2/3 of Wrigley Field. Go Cubs! And so we need to make sure that everybody is counted. This large number, but as the mayor said, we're also talking about $25 million that we would lose. It's just unthinkable to leave that kind of money on the table. I want to make one other point, and that is the confidentiality of the census form. I think perhaps one of the biggest barriers to people filling it out is this fear that somehow information will be shared. That might mean information about immigration status, might mean how many people happen to be living in an apartment. Nothing can be shared, and there are strict and heavy sanctions, $250,000 fines plus 5 years in prison for anybody who would share that information with anyone, including any other governmental agency. This information is solely used to count the number of people that we have in the most accurate way, and will not ever be used in any other way to find out information or use that to punish people in any possible way. So I'm hoping that Evanstonians, all of us love our city, will hear the clarion call of our mayor and wish her a very happy birthday by filling out that census form and getting it in by the 16th, right? That we only have a couple more days left to get it in. And the other thing is, if you don't fill it out, someone's going to knock on your door. We're going to be real pesty in coming to your house to get that information. And so to spare yourself from that aggravation of seeing us at your door, just fill it out and send it in right now.
Good morning. My name is Dorothy Williams, and I'm a member of the Complete Count Community-Based Subcommittee. The goal is to increase the response of the census tracts, 8092 and 8096 specifically. The response rate of these tracts in the census 2000 was less than 57%. So the committee has been working vigorously to increase the percentage. Now, the message that we use at every event focuses on the importance of the census and the benefits of being counted. Many of our residents really were unaware of the importance of the census and how the census affects their immediate community. So we have embarked on saturating the community with activities and educational and promotional activities, which I'll talk at a later time. But I think what's important, we were able to cover every street located in census 8092 and 8096 with promotional material. And also many of the organizations that are sororities, faith-based institutions, and youth-serving agencies have opened their doors to provide information to anyone that needed it, and also to meet all the needs of the community who have questions about why should I complete this census? Why is it important to us? So Wednesday is another March to the Mailbox Day. We're calling on all citizens to come to Family Focus at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and we're going to march again. We're not going to knock on doors. We'll leave that to someone else if you don't turn in your census. But we will be able to provide transportation, and we're going to cover all the streets located in Census Tract 8092 and 8096.
Alderman Grover, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Mayor Tisdahl. My name is Jane Grover. I'm the alderman for Evanston's 7th Ward. If it isn't clear already, you have to understand by now that there's too much at stake for Evanston by failing to fill out the form. Make it a part of every conversation you have in the next couple of days, and be counted for yourself, for our mayor and her birthday, for your neighborhood, for our community, and for Evanston altogether. There is, again, too much at stake. Help make Evanston the community that it can be. Please fill out the form. It's not a test. It's very easy to do. Thank you.
If the media has any questions, go ahead and fire away.
Greg, do you want to say anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess one question is, since the census enumerators will come looking for you if you don't fill it out, what's the incentive for people to actually fill it out at this point if they've chosen to ignore it so far?
Well, if they fill it out, first of all, you don't have to have a census enumerator knock on your door, and second, I'll be a lot less nervous because I'll know that it's filled out and in. It's the thing. The thing to do is to fill it out, send it in, and get the money for the City of Evanston, and not to be afraid that, as Congresswoman Schakowsky described, that anyone will misuse the information. The best and safest way to get $25 million for the City of Evanston is to fill it out and mail it in.
There's tremendous cost to the government in having to have enumerators go door to door. Obviously, the most economical way for taxpayers is if they mail it in. I don't know if you know the cost.
It's roughly $56 per household for a numerator to go and count that person.
We've been telling members of our community that programs like Family Focus Evanston, YOU, and other faith-based programs will be affected because if they don't send the form back, how much is it per family? It's about
It's $980 per resident of the City of Evanston that we're losing, which with the current count that we have is about $25 million. That's where that number comes from.
And that's
Per
per
year.
year.
so that'll
Over 10 years, that's $250 million per year that we are losing, or per decade that we're losing.
You know, at this point, almost a month has passed since these things actually arrived in our mailboxes, and it's very possible that some people can't even find them anymore. They're buried in a stack of newspapers or bills or, you know, whatever, or they got tossed accidentally or intentionally. Should people do in that case?
We've worked really hard to establish questionnaire assistance centers and Be Counted sites across the City of Evanston. The Be Counted sites they can go to at any time and pick up a new form. It will then ask for their address on it, so it has that extra question on it. You can go to cityoфevanston.org/2010 census to see a complete list, but we have one in Robert Crown Center, Fleetwood Jourdain, here at the Civic Center, one at Northwestern's Norris Center, St. Nick's Church, and the Vet Center on Howard Street.
And my office at 820 Davis has forms as well.
And there are some people we've discovered going door to door who did not get a form, and we've asked them to please go to one of those centers and get it.
And when we checked the senior citizens housing buildings, we found that a lot of the seniors had their forms still sitting on their table. They just needed some assistance in completing that form, so we sent volunteers out to help them do that.
How does the response so far compare with 2000?
Our 2000 participation rate was around 72%, and right now we're at 69%. This year's goal is to have an 80% response rate through the questionnaire.
Is there any indication that the response rate may be down because of an increase in vacant properties in the city that might represent an actual decline in population?
Well, there are vacant properties, but a lot of the people who lived in those properties have doubled up and are still in town. They're simply living two families to an apartment, which makes them worried that if the information was misused, that they could lose their home. So that means you end up with two families who are afraid to fill it out.
That's why it's so important that wherever you were living on April 1st, that's your residence, and that's where you should be counted. And that's why there are a lot of spaces. How many people on the census form?
There's up to, I believe, 11 or 12.
Yeah. Fill it out.
Everything to gain and nothing to lose.
And
When enumerators go door to door, or Dorothy, your people who are, I mean, what if you encounter a household where the dominant language spoken is something that the enumerator doesn't speak? How are those situations being handled?
Okay, we had a team of Latino volunteers because in our community area that surrounds Family Focus, there's a large Latino population and also in other parts of the city. So we had 5 volunteers, 1 from the Census Bureau and 3 from the neighborhood. They went out and passed out the same material. Whatever we passed out was in Spanish as well as in English. The enumerators will begin training at Family Focus on the 26th of April. Our volunteers did not go and knock on doors. We could not put information in the mailbox because that's, against the law. But we put door knockers and materials, and then sometimes we stood in the shopping centers and passed out hats or buttons or whatever. But the main thing was to make sure that information was placed at the home, but we did not. If we saw a resident that was outside, fine, we communicated with them, but we did not knock on the door. That's the enumerator's responsibility.
I'm not totally sure what was asked before because I just came in late, but I was wondering, since usually census responses go down when it's more concentrated area or more urban area, and I was wondering what particular neighborhoods that you're targeting to try to get people to fill out the census.
Okay, well, Census Tract 8092 and 8096, for instance, I think it's 8092 that's south of, north of Dempster Street, and up to Simpson, and then from, I'm looking at my map, but it's within the 5th Ward and 4th Ward. And what we've done is to make sure that most of the residents that live in those communities, not most, I say a large majority, are African American or other races. We made sure that we provide them with the information that they could use and they could understand. It was like an educational, I guess, environment or learning experience. We sort of use moral suasion too, because a lot of members in our community distrusted the government, but the main thing was that they didn't really understand the purpose of the census and how the census was going to affect their immediate community. And so that was a message we just kept pounding over and over again, that it's so important for you to submit your form because your child who may attend Family Focus or Fleetwood Jourdain could benefit from more programs because we would have more funds to distribute.
I also want to stress the importance of the census behind our current NSP2 program. When putting the application together, 8092 and 8102 were our target geography areas, and without accurate census information, we would have not been able to pull together a cohesive document that won us the $18 million for that program. So these are two areas that are getting a lot of help because of the census information, and yet we're seeing a low response rate as well.
Craig, about the 8102 on the south end of town, that has the second lowest response rate, I think, as of now. Is there Dorothy, your program is not reaching that area. Is there some kind of program targeting that south end section of town?
The Census Bureau has been working with that area as well. Dorothy's primary part is more of the West Evanston, but Nathan Taylor from the U.S. Census Bureau has been working to have outreach there as well. It's much of the same programs that Dorothy has been doing.
And we've been tracking it every day, and it's creeping up. It's still low, but it's the percentage is creeping up a little bit compared to last year. But I think Wednesday, it's our hope with this last drive-through that people, who's still hanging on, will send in that form.
Last question.
Oh, and one more thing. Saturday, I will be going door to door wherever Craig tells me that I'm going.
One more question? Then thank you very much.
Jan, thanks a lot.